Alright, so I've done a fair bit of the floor spikes there, getting my agility up. We actually got from 20 to 34, which is pretty solid. So our run should be going down a little bit slower when we're doing our questing. I'm going to come back to this every once in a while. I am out of food though, so what we're going to do is turn in these tickets. I think it'll push us to 35. Now that we do have the crafting level, I think I might start knocking out that woodcutting level and work on Lost City. I also think I want to start working on the Tree Gnome quest line. If I do Tree Gnome Village and then Grand Tree, that'll also be another substantial amount of XP. For every one agility ticket, let's see how much XP I get here. 345, which is pretty crazy. So let's use all 8 of those tickets and let's see what level that gets us. It should be at least 35. We actually got to 36, which is solid. Okay, we made it all the way to the Gnome Village. I know there are a couple of more dangerous fights during this quest, but I think you can safe spot them. So we're going to make our way over to the king here. Alright, so we've made it to the boss of the quest. I actually do have the safe spot marked from previous accounts. Alright, let's make sure we get over to the safe spot. I'm going to use Windbolt for this guy as well. He's got quite a bit of HP, but I think the Windbolt should take him out pretty quickly. Alright, that is the boss defeated. Let's grab those orbs and then we should bring this back to the king and that will be our quest complete. There we go. That is Tree Gnome Village completed. Another 11,000 XP. We're really close to that 40 attack, which will allow us to wield the rune items. So again, next thing on my list is to go and do Grand Tree. I just want to check if we have any requirements for that one. So it looks like the only requirement is 25 agility, which we already have, so we should actually be able to start that one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the Grand Tree now. Okay, we made it to one of the final parts of the quest. All we need to do now is use these sticks to fight the final boss, which again, we should be able to safe spot. Alright, this is the safe spot, so now all we need to do is sit in this corner here. Now that he's lured into the safe spot, we should be able to finish off the Black Demon, and that will pretty much be the Grand Tree completed. No way, that was literally the second route I clicked on, and we found the Daconia Rock, which is nice, so let's turn that into the king, and we'll get our XP to finish up this quest. There we go, that is the Grand Tree completed. 18k attack XP, almost 8k agility XP, and then 2k magic XP. That puts us up to now 23 mage, we got 38 agility, and we're at 41 attack now, so we can officially equip rune items. However, we are going to need some better food. I'm thinking I might want to get some wine before I head over to do the waterfall quest. So all we have to do is use the runes on each of these pillars. We're going to start with this front one here, and now we're going to use it on the final pillar, so let's use these last couple of runes here. And then the final step is we have to use the amulet on the statue as well. So I go ahead and remove this, and then I place it on Glariel. We should get a little cutscene, and now our final step is to use the urn on the chalice here, and that should give us our XP and the quest completion. There we go, that is Waterfall Quest complete. A huge amount of strength XP, attack XP, and then some other nice items as well. We're all the way up to 26 quest points as well already, which is very solid, leaving us with 44 attack and all the way from 1 to 30 strength, which is huge. Alright, coming up on a nice little milestone here, we're one more oak log away from 36 woodcutting, and there it is, 36 woodcutting allows us to now go ahead and start the Lost City quest. We already have the 31 crafting that we need as well. I'm going to get started with that quest. But before that, let's quickly head to the bank and see how many oak logs we managed to save up. I figured it'd be a good idea to start saving some oak logs for when we do want to start some construction. But yeah, total we have 219 saved up right now. I used a fair few of the logs to get our fletching up a little bit. We did actually manage to get to 15 fletching as well, as I'm pretty sure we do need some fletching levels to do the tourist trap. Made it to the boss fight in the Lost City quest, so all I should have to do is chop this tree and then the boss will spawn, and then I think I can use like the safe spot behind these mushrooms here. So what we're going to do is try and chop the tree. There's the boss, and we're going to just hide back here, and now all I need to do is just wind strike it down, and then that should be pretty much the quest complete. Unfortunately, I have to manually cast because I don't have a staff. But yeah, Lost City is one of the 2 requirements that I need to do for... Lost City is a really nice quest to get done because it's one of the 2 requirements that I need to get my Lost City is a really nice quest to get done because it's one of the 2 requirements that I need to complete the Fairy Tale Part 1 quest, which is going to unlock the fairy rings. The fairy rings are essentially going to be our best way of teleporting around the game. That is the tree spirit killed. Now we can go ahead and freely chop this tree. I would recommend getting a few branches because you're going to need multiple Draymond staffs later on as well, so we're going to get like 6 for now. And what you can do is if you brought a knife with you as well, you can fletch them into the Draven staves right away. Final step of our quest is just entering the shed, and that should be the Lost City quest complete. Let's go ahead and enter the shed here. There we go, we're teleported, and that is access to Xanar's 3 quest points, bring us up to 29 now, and now we're going to take a look at the Nature Spirit prerequisites. So for Nature Spirit, the only thing we still need to do is Priest in Peril. So I'm going to gear up, get the items we need for Priest in Peril, and then we'll knock that quest out as well. Alright, coming up on the end of another quest, this is going to be the Priest in Peril quest completed. We just have to turn in these last few Pure Essence here, and once I hand these over, that should be the quest completed. So what we get is 1400 prayer XP. That pushes us up to 15 prayer now, and the nice thing that we unlock is access to Mortania. And along with that, we should have the prerequisites done to now start Nature Spirit if we want. Now before we get going with Nature Spirit, there is a couple other things I would like to do. I'm still eating some better food, so I'm thinking of getting my fishing and cooking up a little bit. Just to the point where I have maybe like some trout and some salmon to do some more questing with. And I should also push up my agility. I'm really hoping to get this to 50. So there's definitely a couple of different side activities that I would like to get moving on to. So I'm currently trying to plan out the route for the next little bit on the account here. And what I'm looking to do is actually start a little bit of rune crafting. I could definitely benefit from having some starting runes. So what I'm thinking of doing is Enter the Abyss, which will get me pretty close to 10 rune crafting, which I need to do Temple of the Eye. And then once Temple of the Eye is done, I can do Guardians of the Rift, a pretty consistent access to some starting runes. I have such a large amount of quests that I still need to do, and having access to some teleport spells is going to be massive for that. The Fairy Rings is going to be probably the bigger unlock, but I figure getting Enter the Abyss and Temple of the Eye done will also help quite a bit. In the meantime, I've just been fishing here. As you can see, I'm currently up to 26 fishing. Having some salmon and trout is definitely going to be a little bit better than having cakes while I'm doing my questing. And then I figured since we're at Edgeville anyways, we might as well start the Enter the Abyss quest. Alright, that's it. We just finished the Enter the Abyss mini quest with 1000 runecrafting XP bringing us to level 9. But we still do need one more level before we can do Temple of the Eye. So I'm going to have to do a couple inventories of rune essence, and then we'll use those on the mind altar and get ourselves 10 runecrafting. So we're starting off doing Temple of the Eye. Once I'm done this quest, I'll be able to do the Guardians of the Rift minigame, which is really good runecrafting XP, but will also help us generate a lot of runes for teleporting around and doing other combat spells. So once I'm done this minigame, I think I'll stick around, do a little bit of Guardians of the Rift, but the main goal, of course, is still to finish off that Fairy Tale Part 1. Alright, that's the last little bit of essence. That should be the Temple of the Eye complete once we see this last little bit of the animation here. Okay, now that we've done Temple of the Eye, we officially have access to the Guardians of the Rift minigame. 27 runecrafting as well, which means we can do up to cosmic runes. That's going to be huge for making some jewelry. I think what I'm going to do now is do a couple of games of Guardians of the Rift in the Mass World, and then once I'm done there, we'll see about moving on. I was really thinking of doing Client of Karen because it gives me 2 XP lamps, which I want to throw onto farming, since that'll help us kill the boss for the Fairy Tale Part 1 quest. And there we are, that is the quest complete. The nice thing about doing this quest is it actually allows us to teleport to the Kren Castle. What we're going to do now is go ahead and use both these antique lamps. I'm wanting to put them into farming because I don't really know of any other way at a low level here. So let's go ahead and use the first one. Gets us to 5 farming, which is pretty solid. We're going to use one more as well. And that puts us all the way up to 9 farming. I think at 10 farming too we can do the Garden of Death, but that also should be enough for us to actually do Fairy Tale Part 1 at this point. So I'm just about done the Night Sword here. I figured this would be a good quest to do because it's going to boost our smithing level significantly. I was looking at some of the items we need for Nature Spirit, and it looks like we need a silver sickle. And the only way I can really get that right now is to make it myself, which is going to require some smithing. So there we go, that is the Blurite Sword. Once I turn this into the Squire, that'll be quest complete, and that'll give us another massive chunk of smithing XP this time. And there we go, that is the Night Sword, 12k smithing XP, which is pretty crazy. That brings us all the way from 1 to 29. Yeah, our quests are completed, and now we need to make a silver sickle, and then we should have everything to actually get that quest started. So currently coming up on the end of the Nature Spirit quest, after this final ghast kill, I believe we should pretty much have the quest complete. After completing Nature Spirit, we should be able to get started with Fairy Tale Part 1. Again, that's going to be huge because then we will have access to the Fairy Rings. There it is. Nature Spirit is complete. We get a bit of defense XP. We were a pure up until this point. That's 13 defense. But the main unlock there is now being able to get started with Fairy Tale Part 1. So I'm currently at the point in the quest, which makes me a little bit nervous because I have to talk to this NPC who could give me some very difficult items to obtain, but let's see what he wants us to get. These items are going to be needed to make the Magic Secateurs, so let's go ahead and talk about fighting Tanglefoot. And then once I go through this dialogue, I'm going to have to check my quest guide to see what 3 items I'm going to need. Alright, this is the moment of truth. Let's check our quest list and see what 3 items there are. So we're going to need Valencia Moss, Baby Dragon Bones, and an Uncut Diamond. I don't think the first two are going to be that difficult to get, but the Uncut Diamond might be challenging. I'm going to look up some of the ways I can get that. I really hope this isn't going to be too difficult because that Uncut Diamond could be quite challenging. So I've been looking at the wiki and there are quite a few different ways to get Uncut Diamonds. However, most of them are pretty challenging, stuff that you can't really do at a low level. My best option might actually be to do stars. However, my mining is only 18, so that doesn't really allow us to mine anything. However, as you can see lower on this list, there's actually the Ogress Warriors and Shamans that both drop them at a 1 in 29 rate. So I think I'm going to try my luck there for a little bit and see if I can get one of those two NPCs to drop me the Uncut Diamond.